I'm super excited to be here and talk with you all about virtual production today. Before I begin, I just want to give an overall agenda of what to expect throughout this presentation. We're going to begin with just an overview, a general overview of what virtual production is. If you don't know what that is or don't know all the details and workflows, we're going to be exploring that today. As well, I have a short ICVFX demo just to give you a little taste of the types of things we're doing here at StudioLab XR. And then as well, I'm going to be going over some really exciting workshops that I have planned, and we'll be going over all those really exciting details. And then to end things perfectly today, we have our incredible guest speaker, Diego from Pixamundo. So excited for you to be here. So thank you for making the time. I'm so excited to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's get started. So first, let's answer this question. What is virtual production? Virtual production is where the physical and digital worlds meet. VP combines virtual and augmented reality with CG and game engine technologies to enable production crews to see their scenes unfold as they are composed and captured on set. The types of VP-related workflows include stylized and photoreal cinematics with sequenced and virtual cameras. You can think of it as visualization, doing pre-viz, post-viz, tech-viz. We're going to be exploring what all those terms mean. We're also going to be going over performance capture, hybrid green screen live, and a full live LED wall and what that all means. Next, let's talk about the advantages of using real-time systems for VP. So the first thing is that fast iteration, that onset, doing that pre-post production. That way there's asset iteration, motion capture, VFX visualization. Everything is all live in real time. We get that immediate feedback to the director, actors, and other creatives involved during production. It also provides visual context to actors as opposed to using green screen. You get that high quality previs that can be used to help pre-visualize feature films and to gather audience feedback, as well as pitch material or other detailed planning before production. I can't tell you how much that has saved me in my own personal experience. As well as virtual reality that's driven through pre-production location and technical scouting. We're going to be seeing some examples of that as well. In camera VFX that minimizes or eliminates that long post-production process, and high quality post-viz that is more closely resembles the final image for VFX workflows. As well, I really wanted to draw everyone's eye to this virtual production field guide. At the end of this presentation, there will be a survey where you can fill all this out. You'll be getting not only these resources, but as well additional technical content, me going through the entire ICVFX workflow. So definitely pay attention to that. Next is Unreal Engine as a real-time cinematography production tool. What does that mean? The game engine features that benefit cinema production. Let's go over that. So like I've been iterating constantly, it's that adaptive and dynamic real-time visuals and audio. Everything's in real time. We're able to make these creative decisions right on the fly. It's cinematic sequences and camera behaviors, that high quality CG renderings. It integrates sophisticated interactive systems such as player input, reactive character animation, dynamical visual effects, you name it. It utilizes advanced physics simulations, as well as importing and exporting assets from various DCCs such as Houdini, 3ds Max, Maya, and the Substance Suite. And as well, Unreal Engine is used to create virtual and immersive environments. Continuing on, there's also PBR rendering pipeline that is giving us that accurate and complex shading models, photorealistic lighting and visual effects, Like, for example, in Unreal Engine, the sky atmosphere, volumetric fog, lighting profiles, global illumination, ray tracing, all that good stuff. Virtual cinecamera actors with emulated physical behaviors. So that's aperture, exposure, automatic and manual focus, depth of field. Simulated camera rigs with automated subject tracking, such as rails and cranes. Extensive post-processing effects and color correction, such as chromatic aberration, vignettes, accurate bloom, lens flares, LUTs, and color grading. Animation and sequencing tools include virtual camera control with external tracking, such as iOS and Vive trackers. Chaos physics for accurate physics simulation, such as destruction, collision. And finally, Niagara, that is highly programmable particle VFX system, which is super cool. Next is the rendering tools, such as outputting video for image sequences in various formats, such as EXR, PNG, and render passes, such as depth, color, and object ID. There's flexible real-time compositing system with chroma keying, integration with external hardware for real-time compositing and in-camera VFX, such as Blackmagic, LED walls, and display. Integration with motion capture systems such as Rococo, OptiTrack, and access to free, ready-to-use assets such as Megascans and MetaHuman. And as well, open source code available for customization and extension with C++. So tons of incredible features already right off the bat as why using Unreal Engine is fantastic. Next, we're going to be going over industry examples of virtual production and certain examples and videos we're going to be going over. So the first term I want to bring up is pre-visualization, and what does that mean? Previs is the most widely recognized form of virtual production, as it's regularly presented in the behind-the-scenes clips and before and after visual effects presentations from popular movies. Previs can include music, sound effects, and dialogue designed to approximate the look and feel of the final sequence. The advantage of Previs is that it enables filmmakers to experiment with different staging and art direction options such as lighting, camera placement, movement, stage direction, and editing without incurring the higher cost of actual production. The next topic I want to bring up is actually what Techvis is and tech visualization. So Techvis is used to work out the precise technical requirements of practical and digital shots before committing to crew and equipment on the production day. Techvis can be used to explore the feasibility of shot designs within the confines of a specific location, as well as blocking involving virtual elements. It can also be used to determine how much a physical set is required versus digital set extensions. Finally, it's useful for working out safety considerations and mitigating risk. I can't tell you how much Techvis has been a huge part of my workflow and working out what shots are going to be virtual and what shots are necessary using an LED. So next is motion capture. So motion capture is the process of recording the movements of objects or actors and using that data to animate digital models. When it includes the actor's face and more subtle expressions, it's often referred to as performance capture. Body capture is accomplished by the actor wearing a suit covered in markers that are tracked by special cameras or a suit with built-in sensors. Facial capture involves using either a depth sensor cameras for markerless facial capture or tracking markers drawn directly onto the performer's face. I just have a short video that is just a little sneak peek into the whole ICVFX demo. I do want to Again, really put an emphasis on after this presentation, there will be a survey that is given out to all the participants. And when you do that survey, you will also be granted some additional exclusive content where I'm going to be going over way more in depth this ICVFX process and all the technicalities that come along with it. So again, please look out for that survey. When you fill out the survey, you'll be granted access to that video content, as well as some of the resources that I have presented here today. So definitely be on the lookout for that. So I'm going to bring up my video here. And I'm just going to do a little talk over of what I recorded here. So here I have my Unreal scene open. This is just a free content environment that I'm using to demonstrate this ICVFX workflow. And if I just scroll through here, so here is our end display config, which is a representation of my LED wall. Here
Tamara,
I'm just opening.
Tamara, sorry to bug you. I don't think we can see. We still just see your ICVFX demo slide, not the video.
Oh, thank you. I will go back and fix that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to share. Here we go. Let me just go back a bit here. So here I have the end display config. As I was saying, that is a representation of our LED wall at StudioLab. Here are just some of the components that make up that end display, which is our LED mesh, our ICVFX camera, and then creating a cluster node that essentially communicates that end display, what we're seeing, to our switchboard when we launch to view that on our LED wall. And then as well, I'm just showing here the Cine camera actor. I have it set to the same properties of the camera we are using. And as well, I'm just scrolling to show also the component in the end display is also referencing that same actor that is parented to my end display. So that's that Cine camera actor. And then I'm just going to scroll, just kind of fast forward here. So the next part is using remote control presets. Remote control presets are really cool because if you want to make quick changes on the fly, you can configure this to have any properties that you want. So here I have, my directional light that I'm able to change my light source, as well as, post-process effects such as gain. If I want to maybe make the scene, a little dimmer, a little darker. Here I'm just kind of adjusting certain values. I believe I'm going to just be like scrolling in, adjusting the intensity a little bit, playing around with light color, and as well, just like scrolling through the rotation, adjusting like the location of the sun. I'm able to make those changes really quick and efficiently in this remote control preset, which is really fantastic. And as well, I'm also showcasing the multi-user browser. So again, this is another way where I can create a session and it records all those changes. So here I'm just creating a session called mu_session. I'm able to see my display name, the level that is being used during this session. And then as I make changes, so as I start making these changes here, we can see in the history, those changes are being recorded. So as I continue on, we can see all those operations being recorded in Unreal. And it's telling me exactly what components are being changed. I'm able to have a recording of all of that. Here I'm just playing around with the gain a bit. And it's recording all those changes. And then if I want to end the session, I'm going to be going to, I believe it should be shortly there, that arrow. And then a little prompt will come up saying if I want to persist these changes, I can say yes, or if I don't want those changes, I could say no. So in this instance, I say no. And then typically when I'm done a session, I actually will delete the session just so I'm not reusing the same one. And I like to start that process from scratch in creating a new session and then ready to go start up another multi-user session. Lastly, in this demo, I believe I'm going to be going over switchboard. Let me just confirm here. Oh, yes. So at the top there, I'm going to be going, it might not show up on my end here, but I'm going to be launching the switchboard listener. And then I'm going to be launching switchboard itself. And that's essentially us communicating our end display to our LED wall and creating that configuration. So here I'm creating a new config. So under there, I'm going to go under new config. I want to be sure that I have the right U project path and also the proper engine directory. So I'm referencing the right engine directory and project. And then I can go ahead and add my end display device. So there I'm adding my end display. I'm just clicking populate. And then I'm also double checking that I'm using that same config that's in my scene. And then from there, I'm able to plug in make the connection of the end display. So I'm going to be clicking that little icon there. And then boom, we're launched. It's onto our wall. Here's the result of the project on our wall. There's me waving away in the scene. And then we're able to move our camera and record this in real time. And I'm also going to be going over, we use Moses as our tracking system. So I'll be going over that in further detail as well. So that's where I wanted to end things today. I'm so happy again that all of you have joined us tonight for this really great event. And again, a huge thank you to Diego and Shanaz and John as my moderator today. I'm so happy to be a part of this incredible experience.